Welcome back to the online learning. In today's class, we are going to learn about kefir. What exactly is it? What is its economical value? And what is its manufacturing procedure? Before we go into kefir, there are many more fermented milk products that are available in today's industry. That includes your yogurt, your dahi, that is your curd, kefir, kumis, your sour milk or your fermented milk or your cultured buttermilk, be it your cheese. There are many types of fermented milk products which has its own economical value and its significances against the pathogens and which famous the human health. Here we are going to learn about kefir in particular in today's class. Kefir is one of the important fermented milk product that we get in the industry, which is also believed to be an important probiotic that can influence the gut bacteria. This fermented milk that is called as kefir was obtained from the North Caucasus mountain, which was the beverage of the shepherds. They used to produce this kefir as a bulk and to utilize or consume them as a process of their balanced diet. This kefir is obtained from grains, kefir grains. These grains were once incubated in the milk for a prolonged period of time, where this grain has the influence on the milk to ferment it, because this kefir grains was believed to contain the starter culture that could be your bacteria and your yeast in them. These kefir grains used to harbor certain economically important microorganisms in them, which can cause a fermentation process and convert the milk to a fermented milk, thus called as kefir. These kefir grains has a very high microorganism content, be it from 83 to 90 percentage of lactic acid bacteria and about 10 to 17% of your yeast, which could change the flavor of the milk. Thus we could call them as a fermented milk, where alcohol content and carbon dioxide content was relatively higher. There are also the trace of acetaldehydes, diacetyl or acetone in the milk. Also, the content of your nitrogen and your peptone and amino acid had increased, whereas the increase in certain vitamins and folic acid were also seen. To know the history of your kefir, the name was derived from the Turkish word called as kef, which means good feeling. The benefit of your milk was thus indicated as a good feeling to be consumed, that is your fermented milk, which is rich in probiotic. Always your kefir was compared with yogurt. As we know, something rich in probiotics, the minute we hear that, we remember yogurt. So this is one such substitute or a replica of it, which has the economical value just like a yogurt. But there are certain differences, is that this is going to be a little viscous in nature, slightly acidic when compared to your yogurt, and also it has a mild alcoholic content in them. So but your yogurt comparatively is lower in its acidity and does not contain any such alcoholic content. There are important microorganisms such as lactobacillus, lactococcus, leuconostoc, streptococcus, Saccharomyces are the important microorganisms that are present in this kefir, which is a very nutritious beverage to be consumed, especially for the neonates and the old people. They are really rich in their nutrients. Apart from their probiotic activity, they're also believed to be anti-cancerous in nature. They have antibacterial property, anti-inflammatory property, antioxidant property, and also they are believed to be as the immunostimulators, which will benefit the immunocompromised patience. They also have a great influence on the bone density, bone strength. They keep to maintain the consistency of the bone, the rigidity or the density of the bone. They have certain essential vitamins, minerals, amino acid, enzymes, phosphorus, magnesium, calcium, and vitamins in them, which is like vitamin B2, vitamin B12, vitamin D, vitamin K, and vitamin A. So to look into the microflora of the kefir, which can be compared with your yogurt, these are the list of lactobacillus or acetobacter and the Saccharomyces that we have in them, where yogurt contains only few of it. So this is more rich in its probiotic capacity. So, but here we see mostly kefir is sold as a milk and it's runny in nature. This kefir is a fermented milk, as we have discussed, whereas yogurt appears like a thick cake. To see the last thing, that is the manufacture of the kefir, which is very important. Here we have the raw milk that has been harvested, usually cow milk, sometimes buffalo milk, which is standardized, where their fat content, their quality is assessed. And here we have the homogenization process, where the flat globules are homogenized under centrifugation, about giving it some amount of heat, that is 65 degrees Celsius. They are first standardized, the quality is assessed, and then they are homogenized, and then they are pasteurized to ensure complete removal of the pathogenic microorganisms and the milk spoilage causing organisms. Then they are cooled about 20 to 25 degrees Celsius, and then, as we all know, the milk is been inoculated with the kefir grains, because our kefir grains are believed to contain the economically important organisms, which in turn causes the fermentation in milk. Includes your bacteria and yeast, which is about 20 to 25 degrees Celsius. And these kefir grains are incubated for almost 2 to 3 days. And then this milk incubation process creates a ripening in the milk, that is the fermentation in the milk, which increases its acidity, alcoholic content, carbon dioxide content in the milk, thereby changing the flavor of the milk. This happens for about 7 to 8 hours, and then the temperature is reduced up to 10 to 12 degrees Celsius. After this complete incubation and the ripening process, the grains are separated from the milk. As in, the milk thus got fermented is strained off to get rid of the kefir grains. As we all know, the culture that was there in the kefir is now is transferred to the milk. That is why there is this fermentation process happening. So this kefir grains are strained off. They are separated by passing them through a particular pore-sized mesh, so that these fermented milk are now stored in the drums, large drums. So this straining process will remove all the kefir grains from the milk. Now we have a fermented milk of about a particular volume, which is believed to be fermented by the organisms present in the kefir grains. Now this mother culture is inoculated inside the fresh bulk volume of milk. Now whatever we have obtained would be the starter culture. So now this starter culture is now poured into the bulk in the bulk media, bulk milk, in the big vat, which now will influence the fermentation of that bulk milk. Thus, this mass fermentation happens. So high volume of kefir would be synthesized, which is about 18 to 24 hours of incubation for about 20 to 25 degrees Celsius. And now we finally obtain a large volume of kefir, which is thus cooled at 4 degrees Celsius and stored at that particular area. So to have a quick recap, we first going to take the milk of the cow, homogenize it, standardize it and homogenize it, pasteurize it, incubate it with the kefir grains. And these kefir grains, we know they harbor essentially important microorganisms. They tend to ferment the milk that we have incubated with. Strain the milk to remove all the kefir grains. Thus, whatever we have, the fermented milk would act as a starter culture, which is now poured into the fresh milk, which is homogenized and standardized. Thereby, this acts as a starter culture, causes fermentation in the fresh bulk, mass bulk. Thereby mass fermentation occurs. The temperature would be 20 to 25 degrees Celsius would be maintained. And now after 18 to 24 hours, almost in a day, here we have the mass production of kefir, which is cooled and stored at 4 degrees Celsius. So this is how the kefir, that is the fermented milk, that is being produced. So the critical standard points is the standardization of the milk, the fat, pasteurizing it, fermenting it at a particular temperature only using a particular starter culture. Storage of this kefir grains are more important. Packaging, monitoring, and storing them is much more important according to the critical control points. So that is all we have for today's class, and thank you so much.